Looking for these better days.
It is Thursday, October 9th. I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's what you need to know to make today a better day. The Toronto Blue Jays punched their ticket to the American League Championship Series. Meanwhile, the Phillies, Cubs, and Tigers all stave off elimination. The Golden Knights blow a third-period lead and ruin our system play and our perfect start to the NHL season. And NFL Week 6 kicks off tonight with Thursday Night Football between the New York Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles. We will cook up a same-game parlay. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Better Day, presented by FanDuel, and we'll start in Major League Baseball, where the Toronto Blue Jays eliminated the New York Yankees 5-2 last night in the Bronx. Cam Schlittler got the start for the Yankees, and he pitched really well as you can ask the kid to pitch. He winds up getting tagged for 4 runs, but only 2 of them earned after a Jazz Chisholm error that could have been, and maybe should have been, an inning-ending double play, led to 2 more runs later in the inning, so Schlittler does pick up the loss. Meanwhile, the Blue Jays went with a bullpen day. Louis Varland got the start, but it was 10 pitchers pitching for the Toronto Blue Jays last night as they held the Yankees down for, it seemed like, the entirety of the game. The Yankees wound up having 6 hits. They did score a run in the 9th inning. Aaron Judge with an RBI single in the 9th inning, but Ryan McMahon's solo home run in the 3rd inning was really all the Yankees offense for the large part of this game last night. A lot of things that you can question about the New York Yankees. I, for one, have lots of questions. I think that Aaron Boone at times did not make decisions that were in the best interest of the team. There was no way that you, in my opinion, let Anthony Volpe hit in a key moment late in the game when he was 1 for 14 in the series with 9 strikeouts. You just can't let him bat, but they did, and of course he strikes out again. And then bases loaded in, the 8th inning. The Yankees are threatening here. They bring the tying run to the plate in Austin Wells after a bases loaded walk, and of course he swings at the first pitch, and it was a splitter that he flew out to the outfield. Just lots of moments in this game that you can go back and second guess. But the bottom line is, and this is something that I do want to stress, as much as the Yankees are a polarizing team, I am a Yankees fan, and the Yankees are a major story when they lose. Let's not take away from the accomplishment here of the Toronto Blue Jays. The Blue Jays were by far the better team during the majority of the regular season, and they were by far the better team in this entire series. They beat the Yankees 10-1 in game number 1. They scored 13 runs in game number 2. Yes, the Yankees with the historic come-from-behind win in game number 3, but last night in game number 4, the Jays were better from start to finish, and they deserve to be where they are now, which is in the American League Championship Series. Some facts that were circulating around the internet last night in regards to this series being over. How about Aaron Judge, who had one of the more historic postseasons that you're going to see, despite the fact that the Yankees got eliminated in the ALDS. Judge became just the 2nd player in baseball history to bat 600 or better in a postseason series while having multiple hits in every game. And that's with a minimum of 4 games played in that postseason series. The only other player to accomplish that feat, Babe Ruth in the 1928 World Series. That is insane. But now the season is over for Aaron Judge and the New York Yankees, and we'll see what the offseason is like for them. I have a feeling that it's probably just going to be status quo. Garrett Cole comes back from injury, and you see what this team can do with Garrett Cole and Max Fried together on the bump, healthy in that rotation. I think the bullpen needs to be addressed, and I think that shortstop needs to be addressed. And I don't know if it's going to be calling up the kid George Lombard, who's one of the top prospects for the Yankees in their system, or if it's we'll see what happens with Anthony Volpe. But I do think that, man, the kid was a Gold Glover a couple of years ago. He certainly was plagued by errors, and offensively, he just isn't it. He just isn't it right now for the New York Yankees. But we'll see. We'll see. Meanwhile, the Toronto Blue Jays become the first team in this postseason to advance to the championship series because every team facing elimination yesterday, not named the New York Yankees, were able to pick up wins. The Tigers with a 9-3 victory over the Seattle Mariners, the Cubs a 4-3 win over the Brewers, and the Phillies an 8-2 win over the Dodgers. That sets up some game fours here today in the National League Championship Series. Phillies are at the Dodgers. That is the first game of the night tonight. Dodgers are minus 130 with Tyler Glasnow on the mound. Christopher Sanchez will counter for the Phillies, and the Cubs will host the Brewers. Milwaukee, though, is a short minus 120 favorite. Now, the pitching situation in this game yet to be determined, because I do think that both of these teams could go with bullpen options, and we'll figure it out as we get closer and closer to first pitch a little bit later on today. So these are the two games for tonight. The game in Chicago is going to be a late one. It's a 9 o'clock Eastern time, so 8 o'clock Central time start there in Chicago, and an afternoon game there in LA, a 3:08 Pacific time start between the Phillies and the Dodgers. Meanwhile, with the Yankees being eliminated and the Blue Jays advancing, game number 5 of the other ALDS between the Tigers and the Mariners in Seattle, that'll be played at 8 o'clock Eastern time coming up tomorrow night. And we already know that it will be Tarek Skubal on the mound for the Tigers, and I believe George Kirby is scheduled to go for the Seattle Mariners, but we'll get confirmation on that a little bit later on today. Totals in these two games for today, Phillies and Dodgers, as well as Brewers and Cubs, both at 7.5. And you look at the Phillies' offensive explosion last night, it's hard to think about that game going under. When you look at both of these lineups, it's hard to envision these games going under. I know we had 8 runs in game number 1, 7 runs with an under in game number 2, and 10 runs last night as Schwarber went off with a couple of home runs. I love me some Christopher Sanchez. He's a guy who we backed a lot during the regular season. I had a ticket on him to win the Cy Young this year. Pitched against the Dodgers already here in game number 1 and gave up 2 runs in 5 2/3 innings. I would think with elimination on the line, there's got to be a short leash for Sanchez, although the Phillies did have to utilize some arms yesterday, but it wasn't that many because it was a successful game for them. Like Aaron Nola started, then Ranger Suarez came in and threw 5 innings, but you had an inning from Kerkering, and then Walker and Banks pitched. So you do have still Duran rested and ready to go if he has to go multiple innings here tonight. I think the Phillies can even up this series. I really do. I think the Phillies can even up this series. I would certainly much rather get a better plus money price, but I might wait and see if this line does move as we get closer and closer to first pitch here. But my initial lean is on the Philadelphia Phillies. And then pay attention to the weather, of course, as always in Chicago. Coming up here for this game, with it being a later start, we could get some more wind, and so that's one that we have to pay attention to the weather and see the direction of the wind. And if it is going to be heavy wind, it's going to be a cool night, probably in the 50s, maybe the low 50s for temperature. So does that suppress runs a little bit there in the game between the Cubbies and the Milwaukee Brewers? That'll do it for the Major League Baseball discussion here of the program. Let's talk about what happened on the ice last night, and that was our system play being crumpled. Now, in case you're just tuning in and you're curious, what is the system that you talk about, Scott? Well, we had looked up, and this is something that I've been tracking for years now, and it has to do with teams in the NHL playing on the second night of back-to-backs, and specifically in certain cities like in Vegas and in Colorado. It's an enormous home ice advantage for the Golden Knights and for the Colorado Avalanche. And prior to last night, if you go back just last season, teams playing on the second night of a back-to-back in Vegas, like the Kings were last night, 2-9 straight up, 3-8 on the puck line. 2 seasons ago, 2-7 straight up, 3-6 on the puck line. So that means in the last 2 seasons alone, 4-16 straight up. Going back to the 2021 season, teams playing in the second of a back-to-back in Vegas were 13-25 straight up. Last night, Vegas showed you, I think, what is a good indication of the type of team that they're going to be this season. Vegas went down 2-0 at the end of the first period. They go down 3-1 in the second period, but then score and make it a 3-3 game going into the third period. They score 2 unanswered to start the third period and make it a 5-3 game. And 5-3 was the lead for the Vegas Golden Knights when they went on a power play with about 9 minutes to go in the game. They turn the puck over. Trevor Moore scores for the Kings shorthanded to make it a 5-4 game. And then Clark scores with 6 minutes left in the game to tie it at 5. They go to overtime. The Kings win 6-5 in a shootout. So buck the trends. Vegas blowing the 5-3 lead is something that, I think that this is going to be the team that Vegas is this year. They're going to be an over team. And last night was no doubt, it was 5.5 was the total. But I think we need to start focusing in on these totals for the Vegas Golden Knights. Their offense is incredible. That first line now with Mitch Marner being added is maybe one of the best, if not the best, top lines in hockey. And with Eichel and Marner and Dorofeev and the scoring power that the Vegas Golden Knights have now on multiple lines is dangerous. They might be one of the most, if not the most dangerous scoring teams in the NHL. But defensively, they are a liability. You lose Haig, you lose Pietrangelo, and they don't have a top-tier defenseman right now. And I think that's going to lead to teams being able to come back against them. I think that's going to lead to teams being able to score against them. And so Vegas might just be an over team here this season. So something that I'm going to keep an eye on with these totals with the Vegas Golden Knights moving forward. Elsewhere last night, the Maple Leafs with a 5-2 win over the Canadiens. The Bruins a 3-1 win in Washington against the Capitals. And the Flames a 4-3 shootout win over the Oilers in Edmonton. And so how about the puck line trends for the Dogs? I mean, we talked about this on yesterday's show. Actually, no, we talked about this on, Tuesday's show. Yeah, because we were talking about the first game, the first night of the NHL season, where we swept the board. We went 3-0. But it was the trend line of early in the season, like the first 5 games or the first 10 games of the season for these teams. It's been historically the underdogs on the puck line that have covered. And we saw it in the first night of the season where all 3 underdogs covered the puck line and 2 of them won outright, with the Penguins and Avalanche winning outright. And last night, 3 out of the 4 underdogs covered the puck line and 3 out of the 4 underdogs won outright, with the Bruins, Flames, and Kings. So maybe that's the system that we just should have been playing last night instead of backing the Golden Knights in their home opener there against the Kings, playing the second of a back-to-back. But we got another system here coming up tonight, and it has to do with the New York Rangers, and the Rangers coming off of a game in which they were shut out on Tuesday, losing 3-0. Tonight, the Rangers are in action once again, their second game of the season. They are up in Buffalo to take on the Sabres. And it has been a big-time, historical, profitable trend going back years now. Teams, after being shut out in their following game, you go over the 1.5 goals in the first period. Another profitable angle with those teams has been a goal to be scored in the first 10 minutes. And so these are, you think about it, a team is coming off of a shutout. They put a little extra emphasis on the offensive side. They want to get off to a fast start. And a lot of times we see these teams get off to fast starts. Goal in the first 10 minutes has been profitable. Over 1.5 goals in the first period has been extremely profitable. Here's the rest of your schedule for tonight in the NHL. Blackhawks are at the Bruins. Boston minus 165. The Rangers, by the way, are minus 115 favorites in that game against Buffalo. Canadiens are at the Red Wings. Detroit minus 130. Senators are at the Lightning. Tampa minus 165. Flyers visit the Panthers. Florida minus 200. Islanders are at the Penguins. New York minus 130. Devils at the Hurricanes. Carolina minus 155. The Wild are at the Blues, St. Louis minus 125. Blue Jackets at the Predators, Nashville minus 125. Stars are at the Jets, Dallas minus 115. The Utah Mammoth, got to get used to that. Just got to get used to saying it. I thought there was nothing wrong with calling them the Utah Hockey Club, to be honest with you. I thought there was nothing wrong with it. But they have a name now, and they're the Mammoth. The Mammoth visit the Avalanche, Colorado minus 175. Flames are at the Canucks, Vancouver minus 200. VGK, second of a back-to-back. They are in San Jose to take on the Sharks, VGK minus 185. And the Ducks are at the Kraken, Seattle minus 130. So a busy Thursday night on the ice tonight. Week 6 of the NFL season kicks off tonight with Thursday Night Football from the Meadowlands. The New York Giants hosting the Philadelphia Eagles. And right now up on the FanDuel Sportsbook, the Eagles, 7.5-point favorites with a total of 40.5. And you know, each and every primetime game, we like to cook up a same-game parlay. So here's what we're looking for tonight's game between the Philadelphia Eagles and the New York Giants. I'm looking at receptions, okay? And when I say receptions, I mean I'm going to look at receptions props for several players. And here's my theory on this. First, let's start with the obvious, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles side of things. I'm going A.J. Brown over 4.5 receptions. They say that the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and no one has been squeakier right now than A.J. Brown. To the point where reports out of Philadelphia say that there was a meeting, and you want to call it a players-only meeting, call it a players-only meeting. It was a meeting between Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, and Saquon Barkley behind closed doors as they wanted to discuss the issues involving the Philadelphia Eagles offense. It's clear A.J. Brown has had his issues and his frustrations, and we saw a similar situation like this last season unfold when there were rumors about A.J. Brown not getting along with Jalen Hurts, right? And people talking about the demise in the Eagles passing game or how Jalen Hurts wasn't throwing the ball enough, and A.J. Brown frustrations, a lot of that, a lot of nonsense, if you want to say. And then what happened? Like the Eagles came out, they throw the ball all over the field, and A.J. Brown has over 100 yards, and everybody's happy, right? I think that was the game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, maybe, when they came out and they just threw the ball all over the place. So Brown had over 100 yards, everybody's happy, okay? So that is something that I think we could see here in this game tonight. I think Jalen Hurts maybe force feeds A.J. Brown. I don't hate playing a little prop on an A.J. Brown, to have a reception on the Eagles' first drive. As you know, we love the first drive props. So that could be something that you maybe want to take a look at. But leg number 1 of this same game parlay for Thursday Night Football, courtesy of the FanDuel Sportsbook, is going to be A.J. Brown over 4.5 receptions. Leg number 2, we're going to look at the New York Giants. And I'm going to go with Theo Johnson, the Giants tight end, over 3.5 receptions. Theo Johnson has so far been Jackson Dart's best friend. And there's been conversations about it off the field, how much they get along. But specifically on the field, look at what these two have done together. Since Jackson Dart took over as the starting quarterback, Theo Johnson has emerged as one of his top targets. Last week against the New Orleans Saints, he had 6 catches on 7 targets, and he had a couple of touchdowns. And then there was his first start against the Chargers. Theo Johnson had 3 catches on 5 targets and a touchdown there. The yardage was great last week with 33. I'm not worried about that. I think that with the Giants' injuries to their wide receiver group, and if those of you who don't know, Darius Slayton is not going to play in this game, which means it's going to be Wan'Dale Robinson and Jalen Hyatt as the top 2 wideouts here for the Giants. I think Theo Johnson gets heavily involved here in the passing attack for the Giants. So leg number 2 is Theo Johnson over 3.5 receptions. Now, speaking of the Giants' injuries to their wide receivers, obviously without Malik Neighbors, I mean, we don't even have to mention that. But without depth at the wide receiver position tonight in this game, I think a player that could emerge as a big contributor here to the receiving game is going to be running back Tyrone Tracy. Tyrone Tracy activated, he's playing. He was hurt. He's off the injury report. Tyrone Tracy is playing in this game for the Giants tonight. Tyrone Tracy is a former wide receiver converted to a running back. And I think that Tracy is going to have some plays where he lines up in the slot. I think Tracy's going to have a lot of, routes that he's going to run. And just look at his performance to the first couple of games. Yes, it was with Russell Wilson, but 5 targets in week number 1, 5 targets in week number 2, 3 targets in the game he got hurt in against Kansas City. I think that he's going to have some routes, and I'm expecting some receptions here for Tyrone Tracy. So I can envision a scenario where both Tracy and Scadaboo are on the field together tonight, with Tyrone Tracy being more of a pass-catching option and Scadaboo being the, run it up the middle between the tackles, try and wear down the Philadelphia Eagles defensive line. That's how I see the Giants playing with these 2 running backs here tonight. So Tyrone Tracy over 2.5 receptions is leg number 3 of the same game parlay tonight. Those 3 legs, again, Tyrone Tracy over 2.5 receptions, Theo Johnson over 3.5 receptions, and A.J. Brown over 4.5 receptions, plus 589 right now up on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Now, if you want to go ahead and spice this thing up, you want to toss in one more leg to make it a little juicier here. Well, certainly you can go with the Philadelphia Eagles on the spread. If you do the Eagles minus 7.5, because I do think the Eagles win this football game. It's plus 12-18. Do you want to lay more than that touchdown in a division game on a Thursday night? Not necessarily. Total is low here at 40.5. If you go over the 40.5, it's plus 941. Not exactly juiced up enough for me here. But how about we bet on a touchdown score? How about we bet on Saquon Barkley to find the end zone here against his former team in his former stadium there at the Meadowlands? Saquon Barkley, anytime touchdown, added into the 3-leg same-game parlay that we previously built at plus 589, makes it plus 1027. That is your 4-leg option for a same-game parlay for tonight. Again, courtesy of the FanDuel Sportsbook. Other NFL news, it is official. Joe Flacco is going to start for the Cincinnati Bengals against the Green Bay Packers. So, how bad has it been with Jake Browning? A guy that just got in the building a couple of days ago is going to start against the Green Bay Packers. How much of the playbook does he know? How much relationship does he have with his teammates? This is unbelievable. Joe Flacco is facing the Green Bay Packers for the second time in a 3-game stretch. How about that? Line in this game between the Bengals and the Green Bay Packers now up to 14.5 up on the FanDuel Sportsbook, and the Packers over the Bengals was identified as one of our top 5 mismatches in the Week 6 Trench Report, which is available right now up on betterday.com. Just click on the Research and Analysis tab. You'll find the Trench Report there up for you guys. I have a lot of concerns here. The Bengals' offensive line has been terrible. How are they going to hold up against this Packers pass rush with an immobile quarterback in Joe Flacco, who should be sacked several times here against this Green Bay Packers front? That is a major concern. That's a major concern. Just a couple of games ago, when Flacco beat the Green Bay Packers, and you know that they remember that, by the way, it's not like he was great. He threw for 142 yards. He was sacked twice. He did throw an interception. I think that this is a tough situation here for the Cincinnati Bengals. And do I love laying 14.5? No, but I got a rest advantage, a team coming off a bye against a quarterback that just got in the building. This is our trench mismatch, and I promise that I'm playing all these trench mismatches in the Circa Millions contest. So I'm playing the Packers, and I'm not looking back, and I'm thinking that they put a hurting here on Joe Flacco and the Cincinnati Bengals. What an interesting story. What an interesting story here in the NFL. Well, that'll do it for this quick episode. Coming up later on today, I'm going to be putting out our fantasy football article for week number 6. And so that interview, we'll put the video up on YouTube, but it's not going to be public. It's going to be only for Better Day subscribers. So you'll get the link emailed to you, and the link will also be in the article. And if you are not aware, like, we've been posting fantasy football content for the past couple of weeks up on betterday.com. Again, in the research and analysis tab, you'll find there's the Better Day fantasy articles. In the past couple of weeks, we've had some fantasy experts come on, do a little video interview that we put up on YouTube, post the link in that article, and email it out to you Better Day subscribers to give you the best fantasy football advice that you can get. So that's coming up later on today. And then, of course, tomorrow, 2 Football Friday episodes, NFL and college football, as we get ready for another big weekend of football action. Don't forget, you can hit me up on Twitter at ScottsOnAir, ScottsOnair. And here's hoping you make today and every day a better day.